In a world filled with sharks, bears, and killer bees, one man is brave enough to stay indoors to bring you the latest in gaming, movie, and pop culture news. That man is Tom Awesome, and this is the Outside is Overrated podcast.
Hello and welcome to Outside is Overrated Game Club. Today we're diving into Star Wars Outlaws by Swedish developer Massive Entertainment. This is the first ever open world Star Wars game, so expectations were sky high. But does Outlaws live up to the hype? I'm your host Thompson Logic, and joining me for the discussion today are the Professor Mike Mathwig.
Good evening.
Munch Time, John Munch.
I'll give it a 6, 7.
Oh my god. The Hobby Box, Joe Burns.
Heyo.
And hopefully, Mr. Fancy, Billy Perot. Before we launch into the show, we'd like to state that Outside is Overrated is presented by Premier Health. Check out their website at premierhealthmn.com. That's premierhealthmn as in Minnesota.com. In this monthly standalone segment, we play a game with our community and invite all of our Patreon supporters to join in the discussion. If you want to join in, support Outside is Overrated on Patreon at patreon.com/OiO. You can help for as little as $2 a month. We'll start by setting expectations. In Star Wars Outlaws, you play budding scoundrel Kayvess as she builds a crew for a bodacious heist. You'll sneak, shoot, and scheme your way through outposts and starports for rival criminal syndicates, balancing stealth, exploration, and reputation building. For those of us just joining us for this Part 2 discussion, we spent most of Part 1 exploring Kay's early days as a small-time thief on the dusty, windblown moon of Toshara. So as a quick recap, John, where did you stand with this game after we recorded Part 1 of this discussion?
So I was having a really hard time understanding why I was having fun, right? The gameplay here was nothing to write home about. The story wasn't bringing me in. The characters were okay at this point. I liked some of them, right? And I think I just really like Star Wars, right? And being in the world was fun by itself, right? That's what was keeping me engaged, keeping me having fun. And at the end of Part 1, where I was at, it's like, okay, the other worlds are going to open up. Hopefully that's going to turn into something really great, and I'll keep having fun, and the world will be even better than what I'm seeing right now.
Burnsy?
Yeah, I was interested to see how things evolved. I was intrigued by the story, but there really wasn't a lot of it in that first bit on Toshara. I mean, there's drips and drabs and lots of introductions to things, but otherwise you don't really hit a lot of stuff until you get off that planet. Get off the planet, then go back to the planet, then get off the planet. And I was looking forward to seeing how Reputation would work and evolve, and what the complementary cast around Kay would end up looking like, because there really wasn't a whole lot of that in the early game. So those were the things that I was intrigued about learning more on.
Mike, I think you were the highest on us in Part 1. Where were you at when we recorded last month?
I really like Kay as a character, and I was interested in what they were going to do with the faction system and where that was going. But I was extremely frustrated by the exploration mechanics and just how clunky it felt to explore the open world.
Yeah, I can't wait to dive into that some more. I was decidedly lukewarm on this game, leaning towards hostile. I didn't know if I was going to enjoy this experience at all through our P1 experience. But when we picked this game up for this monthly discussion, we left Toshara, and then you have the freedom to attack the next 3 worlds in whatever order you choose, although the game does encourage you to go to Kinjara. I personally went to Akiva first. Burns, you decided to hit your favorite planet of all time in the entire galaxy in Tatooine. Let's talk about why you went there first, and then we'll talk about where we each went first and why we chose that planet.
Well, I decided to go to Tatooine first. Especially after ranting about it on the last episode, because I just wanted to get the crappy planet out of the way before heading on to new things. So that was my thought process there.
And Mike, your response to Tatooine being called a crappy planet?
Oh, we'll get into Tatooine later on as we go. I don't want to jump ahead in the reading yet.
Sure. Well, where did you end up going first, and why did you choose that planet?
Well, I wanted to go to Tatooine because I had a pretty good hunch that's where the most Star Warsy bits would be and where the fan service would be. So I went to Kijimi just because that seemed like where the story was pointing us to.
Yeah, John, what about you?
I did the same thing. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go over to the wherever they're like, yep, this is the main story. Let's try and like mainline that. And I liked it. Right? I actually enjoyed the flip from more of the open world to like the condensed. Oh, I'm just in a city, and I thought it was out of all the planets the best map. Right? The best kind of thing, area to explore. It was the funnest one.
Yeah, and in true explorers fashion, we all went different places because even though the game pushes you towards Kinjari, and even though every Star Wars fan knows more about Tatooine, I just, on a whim, went to Akiva first. So we each went in different directions to start this experience. So now we're going to talk about what surprised us about our explorations, and from this point on, spoilers, spoilers, spoilers. There are potential spoilers for every world, every story plot point from this point out. So if you don't want to hear any spoilers for Star Wars Outlaws, we're not going to have a lot for you for the rest of this episode. So I hope you'll check it out after you played more of Outlaws. But Jory, we'll start with you. What surprised you as you explored the different worlds and assembled the crew?
I mean, I enjoy the way that they sort of left breadcrumbs in the game as to where this like lives in the Star Wars timeline. So I thought that was pretty neat because you meet a different character here or there, or you'll see something, and then it's like, oh, okay, this is whereabouts we're at, and then it's like, oh, okay, we're exactly at this point in time.
Yeah, well, like, you know that point in time when you're in Tatooine and you see a certain thing hung in a certain place. But, like, if that was the first time that happened, like, he was the experimental test case to make sure that it worked for Luke Skywalker, right? But, like, there's another character encased in carbonite. So, as I said, spoilers, but, like, there's a table made out of a carbonite person. So it's like, yeah, it's cool that there were breadcrumbs, but they didn't always seem to agree with each other. Sorry, there's my soapbox.
Mike, yeah, I mean, I didn't get to that until last, because that was the last planet I went to. So I guess I wasn't thinking about it as hard at that point. Yeah. And it's been ages since I watched and really paid attention to every line of dialogue in Empire Strikes Back. So that probably changed things on that a little bit too. It didn't jump out to me as much.
They didn't invent carbonite freezing for Luke. What they were saying in that is that they were testing that piece of equipment because they didn't normally do carbonite freezing, I believe. And so they wanted to make sure it would work. They didn't. That process was a known thing before Empire Strikes Back, I believe.
Mike, I love you, and I love having you on the show. Thank you.
Ran into that. But what got me, I was surprised at how much better the game gets when you have just a little bit more understanding of how things work, a few better upgrades. Just example. I got really frustrated early trying to get to some items I knew existed on top of like plateaus on the first planet. I'd go all the way around. There was just no way to climb up. There was nothing to hook onto. I couldn't figure it out. Then I realized a little bit later that meant you had to go a little further away, start looking for ways to jump your speeder from one spot to another. And all of a sudden, I was able to get to like 3 different things I couldn't figure out before once I realized just find a ramp somewhere that would jump to one spot, then maybe jump to another spot, and you can get to places you never thought you could. And it opens things up. And things like that kept happening, where once you realized or got to that point where you'd improved some ability, the game opens up exponentially.
Well, and then you go through that effort to figure out how to get there, and then you realize, oh, well, I can't get past this certain point that I need to anyway, because I need to have an upgrade to my blaster that allows me to blow up these rocks. And so it's like...
It knows you pretty well, when you're running into that. They did a pretty good job of letting you know when you need a tool to get through something or do something. So generally, I try to get the tools pretty early, so I didn't run into that problem much.
I found it interesting. I ran into like that same scenario, not with the speeder, kind of with the speeder at some points, but didn't find that as frustrating. But then I was going around Kijimi, and I'm like, okay, they say that there's a key card up on top of this thing, and I'm like, I can't get up there. What are you talking about? I'm running around. I see the question block, this and that. I'm like, all right, fine. And then finally I'm like, wait, I should look to make sure that maybe Nyx can do something. So I do my little Batman, vision with Nick's to highlight everything. I'm like, oh, there's a thing up there. And that then became the thing where it's like, oh, you just got to do that all the time, right? There was like all kinds of puzzles and on like all over the place I was finding because like, oh, just do the thing. There's probably a little thing you're not seeing that Nick's crawls through and there's a button or he holds open a shutter or he knocks something down, right? And I was like, oh, all right, now I see I have to just like, highlight everything whenever I can't figure out where to go, and then it makes it easy mode.
Yeah, there's nothing more fun than playing through a game just holding down Batman vision, right? Like, that's just the best. John, what else surprised you about your travels?
So I was really pleasantly surprised by Tatooine and all the little fan service that they had there, right? I actually was like, there was a couple key moments Jabba's palace was okay, right? But there were some cool moments in Jabba's palace where I'm like going through the vents, which I hate vents, but like, oh, I'm walking through and like there's Boba Fett hanging out and talking to somebody. I'm like, okay, that's cool, right? And like, all right, and then the Rancor fight, I get to see a Rancor, it's cool, right? Like, so there was some cool moments there, and then just some little things throughout the game I thought was really fun. I was though. Well, go ahead, Tom. I know you have words on this.
What surprised me about Jabba's palace is that he lives in like a series of staircases and like zigzagging passageways, and like that's his grand palace. All these areas that he can't possibly access, and that's like, oh, it's great to explore Jabba's palace because I had no idea he lived in like these little itty bitty tunnels that lead to this freaky zoo.
It was a missed opportunity to like have it be more like, let me walk in the front gate and come down those stairs and do that thing. I agree with you. It was like his throne room. You see it, but you don't get to explore it.
The throne room was cool, and like the thing that happened in the throne room also cool. But like exploring Jabba's palace sucked.
Yeah, no, like the board itself, man. I liked a couple of little fan servicey things they threw out in there. That's what I liked. I agree that like all of Tatooine actually felt very, very boring and open and empty, right? And that was like when you take a look at like, and I guess it's the desert, it's this, but I'm like, oh, I got to get on my speeder and drive all the way over here and then all the way over there. It was too long to get everywhere in that place. But the other thing that as I processed through, right, was I was really surprised at how quickly they would build up a plot point and then just drop it. Right? So you go through, you have this bounty hunter chasing you, you do all this, you have this moment where you're like, all right, we're going to be forces, we're going to join, we're now buddies, we've done this thing together, you're not hunting me anymore, right? We actually have a really cool like speeder like escape that I thought was a really fun scene, a really cool thing. I'm like, all right, great. And then that's it. They don't go into that. You don't get any of her backstory of like why she doesn't like the Empire or anything. So it's just like, and that to me was like, oh yeah, it's kind of this whole game. Here is this really cool thing and this character, it's really awesome. And we could like have more scenes with them or do some more stuff, but no, go run over here and do this, like, do another smuggler mission for the Pike Syndicate instead.
Yeah, I totally feel you. Like, that's going to be a prevailing theme throughout this. Like, there are a lot of high highs across Outlaws. I have a lot of things that I wanted to touch on with things that surprise me. Sometimes story quests, like the Haas quest line, subverted expectations. Like, I really enjoyed what happened in that one. Like, I thought it was going one place, and it went somewhere else, and Kay made a funny joke about it. I was surprised by the number of big environmental puzzles and how crappily Kay climbed through all of them. Like, I thought a studio that made Assassin's Creed could make some good climbing.
Well, Massive never really make an Assassin's Creed game, though.
Yeah.
They did Division 2 and Division 1.
Yeah, it's published by Ubisoft, right? And that's where I got the connection mixed up. All right, well, I guess Massive should get a pass then, but there was a lot of climbing in this game, and it was frequently very frustrating for me. There are a couple of lighthearted moments that I really enjoyed. Like, one that sticks out to me is the bounty hunter with Kay. Like, the bounty hunter has been chasing Kay forever. You're forced to work together on this thing. You get away, and then Kay, like, puts up her fist and is like, all right, we gonna do this or what? And the bounty hunter just, like, rolls her eyes at it. And it's just like, there were a couple of moments like that I just loved, and I thought that were so really well done, especially after, like, the tension of all the stealth missions or, just blasting everyone in the face. So that kind of surprised me, and one other thing that surprised me that I really enjoyed, you didn't necessarily have to master the stealth systems. Like, there was a time in Kinjari, there's a couple of big, like, dungeons that you have to sneak through in Kinjari, and some of them have, like, these huge, open, expansive areas. And then as I was playing that, I was like, I just wasn't really feeling it. I needed to keep progressing the story, so I walked in, I kind of looked around, I'm like, man, it's going to be a lot of work to find my path through this. And so I just, like, shoot someone in the head, it's like, oh, darn, they found me. And then, like, firefight my way through it. But I really appreciated that the game gave me the flexibility that when I wasn't feeling stealth, that I could just, blast through it, even if that wasn't maybe the way the game intended me to play it.
I mean, that's kind of how I shifted, and it turned way more fun as well, because like, hey, I have all these gunslinger powers and this and that. It was way more fun to like go into the Imperial bases and like do a little bit of stuff, but then it's like, meh, I'm just gonna go ahead and shoot everybody and like pick up their awesome, because they had way better guns, and use all their guns than my little blaster. It was way more fun, right? The only thing that like I did to like stop the stealthing too is I just always made sure that my like syndicate was always like in a blue zone. So it's like, great, that removes like 80% of the stealth, right? Because so many, and like was actually one of the things I really disliked, like they were like gating travel, like fast travel points behind syndicate areas. So like if you were in poor standing, you couldn't even get the fast travel point. So I was like, that's really annoying. So that's like the first thing I did is like, just find the things that you can buy, like the info, right? And you're like, great, now I can go ahead and get everybody purple. I'm good to go, or blue, and then not have to do half the stealth of the game.
Yeah, good stuff. And we'll talk quite a bit more about the faction system a little bit later. But first, let's talk about main protagonist Kay Vest. Kay Vest, because I wrote first after it, and I combined the words because I'm freaking brilliant and a great podcast host. We introduced her in part 1 as a hopeless yet affable street rat, having spent another month traveling the galaxy with her. What are our thoughts on the main protagonist?
Yeah, I enjoyed Kay overall. The relationship she built with the other characters, whether they ended up being like part of the crew or just in the world, seemed believable and interesting. Though the one thing I would have liked to have seen overall is to have like more of those relationships affect like gameplay in some way. So like being able to have some of the characters that joined your crew like actually be with you at certain points, or do some things like that. I think that would have been helpful. Or like some of the relationships she builds with different people in the syndicates, it would have been nice to have had that like impact something other than just, I can walk around in your little stronghold here without you guys getting angry, and you say, hey, she's with us, blah, blah, blah. It's like, oh, yeah, I am. But otherwise, it's mostly the same.
Well, one thing that we talked about in real life, Burns, when we were playing Battle of Hoth, was you asked me why ND5 didn't do anything, and there's a mission in Akiva where he actually like jumps in and is part of it, and like I just played that, I'm like, oh no, he's involved, like he does stuff, like I don't know what it's like where you're at, but he's totally involved. And yeah, it turns out it's one mission in the entire game. Other than that, he just sits on your ship collecting your freaking Venmo.
It's also, a total missed opportunity as well. Is like, I really like that system where you would meet someone out in the world and like get your skill upgrades by like doing certain things. It was kind of like a little bit of an achievement hunt type of deal. And I'm like, why didn't you make these people like collect, do that sort of stuff? At least have me interact with like ND5 more to get some skills, or have me interact with, I forget the little critter that blows stuff up. No, not Lando. Lando was the best one out of all those. I love Lando.
Ank,
but yeah.
Yep.
Ank. Yeah, like let me go talk to Ank. Like there was no like incentive for me to go build that relationship with Ank. They did a good job like making that connect with ND5 through like some really good audio back and forth, but even that started to repeat itself, right? So yeah, I would have liked to have seen more, because Kay is like I grew to like her. Like she was great. Like, and they do some great things with her. Like, I loved when, like, she impersonates the stormtrooper, right? I love when, all her little one-liners and her just whole, like, demeanor was great. But, like, there's so much more you could have done to bring these other characters in, right? And like we're in this different perspective of like outlaws and gun runners and smugglers. Like, lean into that and let's get these characters involved, right? I like, Billy put in show notes that he appreciated that the character wasn't a Jedi, right? And we don't see Jedis. Well, we see a couple. We see one, right, at one point, right? But like, they're not really here, and I love that about this game. It's like this different take on Star Wars, but we didn't get to like really like lock in and like see the relationships between these characters that are part of your heist team.
Yeah, I agree. I like Kay a lot too. I just thought she was a solid, relatable character that, once you found out her backstory and, how she got to where she was at the beginning of the game, her attitudes and her, approach all make sense for what her past was, which is nice because that's not always the case with video game protagonists. So I appreciate that she does make perfect sense, honestly.
Yeah, I really loved Kay. I hated her in the first part of the show. I felt like in the beginning of the game, it was just like, oh, I screwed up again. Oh, I screwed up again. Oh, I couldn't have fathomed that there would possibly be an alarm in this thing that I'm stealing from this high-tech vault. It's like, oh my goodness, eye roll after eye roll. But like, she really grew on me, and she had some incredible lines. Like, one that I noted was, she said that rebels, Imperials, cartels, you're all the same. You all just use people to take what you think you deserve. And I thought that was really her perspective on the Rebel Alliance based on her early interactions with them in the game. I thought was really fascinating through it. And then I thought about how that tied into her abandonment issues with her mom. I'm like, oh, well, I can see why that would set her off so much. And like, I thought Kay was a wonderful character. And if people are going crazy on the internet for her being the Star of Outlaws, like, I don't know what they want. Like, I thought Kay was a delight, and
well, they wanted her to either be a man or to have like massive jugs and really tight clothes. Like the people that were complaining about her were just doing it because of dumb internet incel stuff. But I did appreciate her feeling towards the rebels. Because I know, like, when I ran Star Wars RPG for a group for a little bit, that was like one of the things that I really wanted them to think is that, helping these rebels is kind of a pain in the dick. It's like they just want everything, and that's why I use like Princess Leia as like a character, and I wanted them to actually like kind of dislike her because like, she would be pretty demanding, and like, especially since it was like where that took place was like right before Eldaron, like everything kicked off in episode 4. So it was just like I really wanted them to sort of get this sort of perspective on the Rebel Alliance before it was even that big of a deal. And so I do like that Kay had that those sort of sentiments towards them.
And I'm really glad that they didn't reverse it. Right? Like that would have, because that's, they didn't Han Solo it. They didn't be like, oh yeah, he's this rebel, but like now he's joining with the Alliance, this and that. Like, she helped them to better her own self because here's this, scenario she's in, and she's gonna need to work with the rebels, but she's still like, forget you guys, I'm in it for me and my crew. And I thought like I was going through and like, okay, story, don't mess this up. Do not have her then say like, all right, let's all join forces and we're gonna go against the Death Star or do whatever. Like she's like, nope, I'm out. Right? I mean, the Empire was still the big bad in the game, and that's fine, right? I think it was a good villain, but like, I'm really glad they didn't go that route and say, oh hey, let's join forces, and now you're part of the Rebel Alliance.
And I really enjoyed, thinking about Kay and her mom, who's another character in the game, I really enjoyed how they were different from each other and how they were consistent with their own viewpoints of the world. Like, her mom was the loner who was always on her own. Kay always wanted more companionship, and so she wound up putting together a crew. And, like, I feel like they both got what they needed, and I just loved how consistent they were with each one of those characters and how different they were. So let's move on to Kay's crew. The basic gist of the story is that Kay's trying to assemble a crew and take down the big bad and clear the death mark that hangs over her head. So John, what stood out to you about her journey and the allies she assembled?
Well, first off, it's a heist episode, right?
You've been waiting for this forever, dude!
I've been waiting. This is it, man. I was like, that's what I wanted last episode. Like, when we talked about the first, I'm like, oh man, if they got to make it a heist episode, let's go, right? And I love it. I loved collecting a crew. I loved each of the characters that we collected, right? And I loved how like it kind of fell apart, right? Like the Haas mission, I felt like was completely unexpected, like you said, Tom, and it was, fantastic. But that was the only one of these missions that really felt awesome. All the other ones kind of felt flat and repetitive.
I like the Ink one.
Which one?
Ink.
Right? But it was still kind of the same as when you like broke that guy out of like the head in the jar, right? You go in, you sneak in, you say, "Hey, Ink, how's it going?" You go up and you find Ink's little special trinket, right? And then like you watch Ink on another thing and you're opening doors and stuff so Ink can get out. It was kind of the same, right? Rinse and repeat. So
yeah, the Gadik one was similar too, yeah.
Right? You're just kind of doing that same thing. And I mean, even the Host one was very similar, although like I love the fact like you lose Nyx, right? Like now I don't have this little thing where I can't do the, special zoom in and see my Batman vision. I can't do those sorts of things, right? So I did like that. I did like in the Gadik one where you have to be a stormtrooper. I thought, okay, that's something cool and unique a little bit, but that's where they kind of fell flat. But the crew itself, great. I loved how they end up sticking together, right? But again, didn't feel that connection with necessarily everyone else except for ND because they really didn't have everybody talk. But yeah, Gadik to me is like the biggest missed opportunity out of all of them, just because you do get that like you see a couple things and hear a couple things and read a couple things that like the whole reason Gadik is there is because Kay kind of messed him over. Like she gave him up and made him have to decide between like basically turning in his family or doing something horrible or going and joining the Empire, right? Because their whole casino heist went bad, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like they don't even like get into that. Like to me, again, missed opportunity where like these two have a history, right? It should have been way harder. Like Gadik should have probably taken a couple shots at her more with that droid in that room, right? And just they didn't.
Yeah, and to add to that point, like I also loved Gadik and like the breadcrumbs later in the game that Kay was the one who screwed him over and forced him into service of the Empire. Like it made me want to replay that Gadik opening because he was the first character that I recruited. It's like I was kind of fuzzy on the detail because a lot of stuff had happened since then. I'd blasted a lot of rocks and walls and like climbed a bunch of like derelict ships. So I totally agree with you, Mike. Oh, go ahead, Burns.
I was gonna say I really liked the line that Gadik said though to her before you go into like the final series of missions, where he's just like, "There's the K-Vess that left me basically to the Empire, and then there's the K-Vess that risked everything to come and save me. Just make sure you're being the right K-Vess when we move forward here." And I just thought that was really cool, and it's like it did make me wish that there was other opportunities where you could like spend time with these characters because they're interesting and unique in their own little ways, and you get like those little bits and pieces about who they are or where they come from or why they're doing what they're doing, and it just a little bit more of that would have gone a long way, and just a little bit more time that you're spending like actively doing things on missions, or even if they were the people over comms with you as opposed to ND5, would have gone a long way. I get technically why that's probably impossible for them to do because they don't know which planet you're going to go to first, so they can't like work somebody else into one of the other planets, so that's why it always has to be ND5. But it's just unfortunate that there wasn't the ability to do more with that.
Yeah, and it's not like there's a blueprint that Mass Effect said like 18 years ago about collecting characters and spending time and like building those relationships offline. One more note I wanted to share on Gadik, like they do some funny things with him. Like he's a former rogue. He's got this spike that he had used to manipulate in casinos. When he and Kay worked together the first time, they called it the jackpot spike. And when they're breaking out of the Imperial base together, he's like, actually, now it's called a freedom spike because he's working with the Rebel Alliance. And I just thought that was really, really funny.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned Mass Effect because if you notice in the show notes, I referenced Mass Effect because that's what I thought of too. I mean, everyone's right about this. ND5 is great. Everyone else is just not given enough room to find. I want to call it one. Well, ND5 has a lot of funny lines, but my favorite. I don't know if you guys did the side mission where you go into a dead sarlacc's mouth to find a tooth.
Mm-hmm.
You're doing it for the Jawas because the Jawas agree to put a turret on your ship. And Kate calls ND5 and says, "Oh, I asked the Jawa to put a turret on the ship." ND5 has a pause. He goes, "On purpose?" And he's just so confused. And he's constantly got this deadpan kind of confusion with Kate's attitudes and actions that he doesn't really understand. He just adds so much to the game with that, but he's the only one who's given the chance.
Yep.
What this game needed was Mass Effect style loyalty missions, the ones you did in Mass Effect where you got to really, go into a character's backstory through this loyalty mission and spend time with them to, bring their loyalty up. And it just added so much to your understanding and appreciation of the characters. And I would have loved that for this game with everybody but ND5, where you just don't get that opportunity.
And I feel like, there's no blueprint to get this, but it would have been really easy. Look, just take a couple of these side missions that, were out there, and, look, the side quests in a lot of the places were pretty decent. There were some good ones there. Just pull out the generic character and say, oh, Gadik needs this thing to build his Freedom Spike 2.0, and we have to go get it from this Imperial base. Or, look, maybe it's a Sarlacc tooth that we need, Ankh needs as a reagent for, a bomb or something, right? You could have taken these things and used them as vehicles to, build that interaction between the characters, and just, missed opportunity.
Let me jump in on that real quick. The problem with doing that is those were all tied to cartel things where you get to the end of the cartel job and it's oh, do I turn it in to the Pikes who I'm doing this job for? Or do I screw him over to boost my reputation with Crimson Dawn? So I agree with you. That would have been an awesome way to handle it and a lot better overall, but I could see why they didn't make that sacrifice.
Except those are more of the, I go to a handler and there's the rando missions you can pick up and just go do. I'm talking more about, there was set missions, go find my brother, he's just here. Or there was some also, cartel-specific missions where you'd go talk to the head of the Pikes or the head of the Hutts and they would give you, these bigger story missions. I'm you could have taken that and still done that and just said, well, yeah, we got to go work with the Hutts to get this bomb piece, right? And Ankh's our contact, and she's going to go in, and, we got to go, with Ankh, and, then you could, have that interaction between Jabba and Ankh, right? Or, the Pike guy or whatever. That stuff would have been cool to bring more of those people with you on the mission.
Yeah, I think it's just with the structure of the game as it was, I think that would have been difficult to do because a lot of those quests that you're talking about are unlocked at the same time that you're going through the main quest to get someone. And so what they would have to do then is they would have to wait for that to unlock until after you basically finish that planet to get that character in your crew. And then what that does is it just adds more building blocks afterwards, which I think then would run you into the issue where if you're adding on a lot of these things to incorporate these people, it would have to happen before the final mission, but after you've at least done enough of the other missions on the other planets to be able to do them. So you run into a Final Fantasy 15 where all the side quests, you have 8 hours of side quests to do before you do the final mission, and it's just these really needed to be spaced out much better instead of clumped right before, we should go save the world, but I'm going to go run around with this character for a little bit first, and then I'm going to run around with this character some more. I think that's the only difficulty with it, and I mean, they probably could have worked that in if they would have, I thought, to do that, but it would have been, I think, a little tricky just with the overall structure of things.
And then you got players like Brian who just skip all the cutscenes and side content, and then he'd miss it. John, why don't you want Brian to have fun with this game? Why do you hate Brian with the burning fiery passion?
Because he still hasn't played Tales from the Borderlands, that's why.
Yeah, and that's what he gets. Billy made a note in the show notes that he really appreciated when all the allies came together in their journey of attempting to rob Slerio again after seeing how Kay did it in the beginning of the game, and he thought that was a really good way to reintroduce the big bad leading up into that final mission. Then Burns, I'll look to you for the next point.
I'm pretty sure I already mentioned all of my stuff, so.
Oh, I saw that it led that you agreed with Billy. I'm like, oh, I better put Billy's point in there.
No, it was mostly about the crew members being incorporated into the gameplay because he had mentioned that. And so that was mostly what I was agreeing with him on. So yeah.
Yeah, and I've mentioned a lot of my thoughts for this section too, but one thing that stood out to me, late in the game, you end up, Kay and her mom get reunited and they run a mission together, and I just got so tired of her snarking at her mom across the entire mission. Like, I get that she's frustrated. I get that she has abandonment issues, but like, is this really the time and the place to like respond to everything your mom says with the snarky comment? It's like, can we just like get through this base and get the thing and keep moving? Maybe that was just me playing on a deadline, but like, I got so frustrated with her constant snark.
Here's the thing, Tom. Your girls aren't teenagers yet. Once they get a little bit older, you will totally understand that entire section on a whole other level.
All right. I look forward to revisiting this discussion in about 10 years. Can't wait.
And really, I mean, I don't know. I was 100% with Kay on all of that because, you know, what her mom did to her really sucks and kind of messes up a person's development. And, you know, now you're forced to work with her, and it's just sort of like, yeah, I would probably be pissed the entire time too.
Well, I get it. And especially if you're like doing volunteering together, like packing meals that feed my starving children or something, certainly run your mouth all that you need to. But like in a life and death situation, like I would be more concerned with my self-preservation than getting my 2 cents in. And like, I'm a person who always has to get my say in. So like, I don't know. I thought it was
Star Wars though. I mean, remember Leia when being rescued from the Death Star in Star Wars? There was a whole lot of snark there in a life and death situation. It's kind of tradition.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's a princess.
Even with that though, Tom, like that evolves as the mission goes on. Like it gets to a point near the end of the mission where like they legitimately care about whether each other are going to get out or not. And a lot of the snark does fade away by the end of it. And a lot more of it is just, okay, how are we getting away? What are we doing here? And so you see that Kay kind of start to get over that as you go through the mission and you get some of the revelations that happen during the mission and how dangerous things actually are. And it's like, all right, well, we just got to GTFO and try to protect ourselves. But then Kay's like, no, we got to make sure we finish the mission. And so I think there's lots of cool aspects that develop from that too, outside of that also, I think.
And let's keep in mind, right? Like, all right, so you're 15, maybe 14, and your parent just dumps you and ditches you and leaves you to live in the attic of a bar, right? And just because, like, yeah, I don't do people very well. That's her excuse. And then you live for 10 years on your own, figure all this out, right? And then all of a sudden, your mom just shows up and she's on the mission, and you have 10 years worth of I told you so, and I hate you, and like missed therapy things that you probably should have had that you want to say, right? Like, and you have to go do these things, and it's a stressful situation. Like, that to me, it actually is pretty realistic. Like, yeah, and Kay is already like not the person who's like very reserved with her vocal ideas and thoughts. So to me, I'm like, this kind of fits, right? And I wasn't annoyed. I was kind of like, yeah, you should be talking some smack to this lady who ditched you, right? She needs to hear a lot more of it.
Yep. And in the real world, when a parent goes off and leaves to go get blue milk and death sticks and they never come back, It's not 10 years later, oh, hey, nothing ever happened, right? It's all good. Oh, no, I didn't get the blue milk and death sticks. Sorry, but...
Yeah, I don't know. I'm sticking to my guns on this one. Just reiterating a couple things we said earlier, I also really enjoyed Kinjari, and I thought that Jabba's Palace was a tremendous disappointment. So we move on from there to the criminal syndicates. The game seemed to set up these rival factions as the main thrust of the story in our Part 1 discussion. So did they end up playing a major role in your experience? Like, I'm going to start off with an example here. I got so tired of the repetitive mechanic, the job's done, do we cash it in or do we screw them over mechanic. Like, I engaged with each of the factions just enough to keep them all in a good relationship so I could move freely through their bases, like John mentioned earlier. So, like, I don't know, I didn't engage much with the cartels. Mike, I know you bottomed out or cratered a cartel relationship. How was that experience for you?
Yeah, it's kind of a pain. I did it as an experiment. I was curious, and honestly, I don't recommend it. It just makes it a nuisance if you have to go into or through that cartel's territory for any reason. Even if you're not, you're getting attacked, and if you're going through, it's kind of a nightmare. So I pretty quickly fixed that, where at least it was, they didn't like me, but they didn't absolutely hate me, and I kept it that way with everybody just for convenience sake. And I agree, they set it up nicely as a cool mechanic with these cartels, but they didn't, like everything else, I think they just were spread too thin and they couldn't, utilize that structure to its fullest extent, where it could have been really, really neat if they could have done so.
Yeah, on Toshara, the game really makes it seem like you're just supposed to screw over the pikes at every turn that you possibly could. So I had them bottom out, like the very bottom of everything by the time I left Toshara. And so then I went to Tatooine, and basically every few minutes I was on a speeder in the middle of the desert. I get swarmed by about 3 to 6 pikes, would have to jump off my speeder, have a shootout with them, then, move back on my wary way. Maybe I get to where I'm going before I get attacked by a couple more of them. And since there's no pike presence, like, there's no, like, area where they have a broker or they have a little area or whatnot, there was nowhere that I could actually turn things in to try to help them without leaving the planet. And at that point, it was the first time I jumped there, and it's like, you're in the middle of doing all these other things that didn't really make sense thematically for me to just leave and go back to Toshara. So I just kind of dealt with it for a long time until I finally got done on Tatooine. And it's like, okay, well, I gotta try to get this at least out of, like, being bottomed out so they stop just attacking me ad nauseum. But it was a good 15 hours of my gameplay experience of just randomly getting assaulted by pikes, and it's like, how did I not kill your entire cartel by this point? Like, I swear I shot and killed probably, and I'm not joking, 100 pikes, and it's like, how do you still have more people? This is insane.
Yeah, I mean, I just game the system, right? As soon as I realized that, like, it was gonna make it harder for me to beat this game in a non-fun way, I was like, nope, go ahead, get everything maxed out. And then as soon as I realized, secondly, that, like, if you get to, like, double excellent max, you get some sweet gear. Like, I maxed out Crimson Dawn on Toshara, and I got, like, the whole Crimson Dawn, like, set that gives you, like, a set bonus and all this, and, like, oh, K-Vest looks awesome. This is what I'm wearing half the game. And I was really hopeful that, like, being top dog, like, Crimson Dawn was going to, like, cause other dialogue options or, like, things to happen with quests, and nothing, right? Like, Crimson Dawn wasn't anything. I'm like, oh, I'm not even seeing you on the other planets. Now I'm just, like, I'm on Kajimi, and it's the robot-y bug people, I forget what they're called, right?
Ashiga.
And, like, Yes, yep. the Ashiga clan, right? And, like, wow, these are really cool. Like, all right, let me go ahead and build their reputation. And I did like that aspect of every world. You were kind of working for a different syndicate, and that made sense. And I like that. I like that Ashiga quest where you're, like, helping overthrow the throne and stuff. Like, that was kind of a cool one. I like the hut quest on Tatooine where, like, you have to go do some crazy stuff to, like, rescue Nix and this and that. Like, I liked some of these quests. But I didn't like the stuff outside the main quest line where you're like, yeah, let me go ahead and just, like, work on building my reputation.
See, and I liked those quests too, but I wanted the end result to actually have an effect on something. And it's like, you do all this stuff and it impacts the world, especially, like, the Ashiga clan stuff. It's like you're literally choosing the future of their entire, like, race and clan, and it's like you hear a couple random people talking about it on the street, and that's about it. It's like, how does this not have some greater impact in stuff that's going on in the world or in the universe? Like, I really wanted to see something like that in the game, or the fact that the leader, like, the leader and meet the leader of the Crimson Dawn and talk to them face to face, or you talk to Jabba face to face. Like, how does that not change some of the things that happen? Aside from just, well, if you're an excellent, you can basically talk to some people and, you know, they'll give you stuff for free or give it to you cheaper, you know? And it's just like, I don't know. I just wish there was, like, something more to that. Or, like, for instance, later on, well, at least later on for me, when you're on Akiva and you have to do this, like, huge infiltration of, like, the Hutt area, it's like, why can't I, like, because I'm, like, excellent with the Hutt cartel, why can't I get, like, directly into a certain area or have some sort of an option to be like, hey, we need to do this for this. This really doesn't impact you. We'll find a way to cover the losses instead of turning these people over to the Empire. It's like, I wish there were, like, something like that that gave you some benefit for the things that you were doing, like, actually in the game. And I don't feel like there was any of that, except for maybe one thing that we'll talk about later, that might have been a benefit of any of that stuff.
Right, and I think what we're circling back to is, like, Massive tried to do too much, right? Like, the open world stuff here just doesn't work, right? And sadly, right? Like, I think they could have taken this and made it just a more linear game and given us everything we kind of wanted, except for, you know, Joy, what you're saying about, like, oh, having impact. But they might have even been able to do that because they might have been able to have branching paths in the story because they're locking things in. Great. Mm-hmm. Now, because now I'm going to make you do these stories in a certain order, now we can go more of a Dishonored or a route like that where, like, oh, you did option A, so now the second part of your quest is going to be option C or D you have instead of, you know, R or Z or whatever it might be, right? So, like, if they just would have, like, toned that back, it would have removed a bunch of the smuggler missions and the boring stuff we didn't like, and you probably still could have had the open world exploration tied to, like, oh, go find these people that can help you be a better smuggler, right? And do that and tie that in and still have the open world quests. Great. You just get rid of this silly faction system.
Not Dishonored. I think they should have gone for Uncharted style, where you have, it is linear, but when you get into a mission area, it's a big area, you spend a lot of time there, you know, you go through a lot of things until you get to the next chapter. Each planet could have been an Uncharted style chapter and done exactly what you just said that way, and it would, I think, have worked beautifully.
Yeah, so we pretty much just fixed Star Wars Outlaws. So Massive, get on this for Outlaws too, yo. So I think I can summarize this all in saying just that the whole faction system was a big swing and a miss, right? Any dissension? Great.
Not a miss, but it wasn't what it should have been. It was still fine. I enjoyed the Ashiga clan. I really liked that mission where you're, you know, helping decide who gets to be queen. And I just like that whole structure of that clan, but it just they didn't do enough with it after that point.
Yeah, and every planet that you go to, you have contracts that you can run for the different factions. That was great, right, guys? Right? Like, running the contracts, super fun and rewarding.
If you want to do it, but it didn't really mean anything.
Yeah, like if you have...
me get the Pikes from having a terrible relationship back to good, so it was nice to have in those instances, but aside from that, yeah. Yeah,
I hated the contract system. I thought the contracts were largely boring. And this game just made me wish that they had some sort of a rival system like Shadows of Mordor. I thought that would have been a potentially cool mechanic with all these different factions and people trying to jockey their way for position. I thought that could have been cool. But we'll never get a game that has that in it ever again.
No, you won't.
But just keep playing the original forever. As an open world game, Outlaws provides a bunch of side activities to engage in, including events, the card game Sabacc, and micro-dungeons or environmental puzzles to solve. These tend to have rewards that you need to upgrade your blaster or gear with unique... Sorry, I'm going to reset that one. These tend to have rewards that you need to either upgrade your blaster or gear with unique attributes to tailor your playstyle. Overall, did we find these optional activities enjoyable? Like, we talked about Sabacc a little bit on part 1, and I thought it wound up being great. I enjoyed taking on all the high rollers. I enjoyed taking down the vaults on Akiva, and I did a number of side things just to find the gear and the upgrade materials. but that was more out of necessity than for funsies. If I could, I would have just like played the story content and largely ignored all the optional content in the game. Are you guys with me, or did you think that the side stuff was an important part of the experience?
I enjoyed it, but I think I was kind of in your area where it was really to get the loot, right? Oh, hey, here's this thing over here. I need a blaster upgrade. Or, oh, there's a contact and I want to get that skill and I got to go run over here and talk to that contact. Those were the ones that I would process through and do all those. There were some decent ones where it was like, it was kind of a fun little story here and there, right? But for the most part, no. And even like Sabak, right? Like, I liked, right? And like did the Lando stuff and like I am like Gwent. If there's a card game like Queen's Blood, Gwent, let's do this. I'm playing this game now. Forget about you. Witcher 3 and Final Fantasy, Rebirth plot. I'm just playing cards. This is great. And Sabak was like, no, this is it. I never had to worry about losing. I feel like the game like basically was just like, we're gonna give you all these options to cheat, and B, you never have to because I'm always giving you the exact card you need to win. I had like 1/1 or like True Sabak like almost every time I played in every hand. I don't know if I'm just lucky or what, but that's what it felt like to me.
You should have went to Tatooine first, because the high roller mission there does not pull any punches. It doesn't like feed you with a bunch of like shift tokens that you don't have. You basically have whatever you've earned, and since I went there first, I really had nothing, and they just worked me constantly over and over again, because it was just like, I don't know, you've got all these strong abilities. It's like, oh, I have an imposter. Oh, now those are worth 6. Oh, now I have to discard my hand and draw a new hand, and it's the 3rd round. It's like, thank you. This is great. This is fun. I have nothing that can counter this. Hey, you guys all can pay 1 tax. Woohoo! So, maybe that soured me a little bit on Sabak, but I mean, it was fine. It's fun to have something that was in the lore of the movies and actually be able to like play it out and see how it works within the game. But yeah, it's nothing like Gwent. It's nothing like some of those more in-depth sort of side games that exist in a lot of other games. For me, anyway. I enjoyed like the Jet Cordo missions, where you're trying to find the different vaults on the planets. I will say it's a little bit obtuse trying to find some of them. That's maybe the downfall of it. They needed to do something a little bit different with the holodisc to help you figure out where you need to go to find it. Some planets it's a little bit easier than others. They have a little bit more recognizable ones, or recognizable landmarks. Others, it was just like, after I looked around for a bit, I'm just like, all right, Google, tell me where this is that I have to like go to trigger this moving forward, because it's just like, I'm not going to waste my time wandering around the sands of Tatooine any longer just to try to find this. And my least favorite things, as we talked about earlier, are just like the Metroid-esque aspects of it. It's like, oh, you got to this deep area. You just killed a ton of pirates to get to the inside of this area, and it's like, oh no, you need an upgrade to your blaster in order to get through this. And it's like, I go back there later, it's filled with pirates again. It's just like, I don't really feel like gunning down all these dudes again, trying to get back to there. I'll do it at some other point. I just never even got some of those upgrade things, because it's just like, I don't know, I didn't really do much on Toshara after I left it, because that was probably my least favorite planet. So it was just one of those things where it was just like, I don't know. It's unfortunate that it takes a while, and especially it's like the fusion cutter. You get like at the end of the game, and it's just like, I don't even remember the few things that I found that had stuff locked behind that. And it's like, I don't know, I'm not even going to find whatever that was again. So it's just like, some of that stuff, I mean, you get the rock blowing up piece, the power shot a little bit earlier in the game, but the fusion cutter is like so far at the end. It's just like, I don't know. That's a little weird that you get that so late.
One thing they do that I appreciate, when you do run into those areas where you need the specific tool that you don't have, they mark it on your map for you. So if you do ever go back, it's like, I know there's at least one gate on Kinjari where I can use my fusion cutter, and I'm super excited to jump back in after we record this to go open up that and get my treasure chest.
I got one thing, and I was wondering if anyone did it, was those Jet Cordo missions. 'Cause I didn't do one, right? And normally I'm like, ooh, yeah, more story and this and that. And actually, that was kind of one of the more interesting things was like the history of the ship and this and that. And like, I kind of forgot that we even had them. And I was like, oh wait, I have to go do this. Like, how did I do these again? And like, oh yeah, there's this hollow disc thing. And I was like, oh, I have to like look at the map and line it up. It's like, nah, I'm gonna beat the game. I'm done. Like, what were the rewards? Was it story beats? Was it just extra loot? Did you get ship upgrades? What was it?
I don't think there were any ship upgrades. So it would be like loot that you would get, and then you would get some of the you get entries in like the there's a certain one that were Jet Cordo like discussions or whatever that you would get. That gave you a little bit of a background about kind of what happened with him. I don't know if at the end of it you actually do find him or not, or if he's long dead. Because I did.
Yeah, I wondered about that too. Because I didn't do all of them, and I was curious if you did all of them. I wonder if you would, because it gives you, it kind of tells you a story through if you go through the different journal entries of what happened with his crew basically, and his issues. But I didn't get all the way through it, so I don't know how that all played out.
Yeah, because I did the one that was on Toshara, the two that were on Tatooine, the one that was on Kijimi. I just didn't do Akiva because that was the last planet I did, and it's like, all right, end game, let's keep moving. So at some point, I'd like to go back and do that and see what else there is to that.
Or you could just watch it on Google.
Some sort of conclusion.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm close enough now at this point that it wouldn't take that long to go find that last one. And I know exactly where it is because that one actually has a pretty good landmark showing where it's at. So,
gosh, just, hey, massive, like, again, missed it. Like, those were your missions. You could have tied to loyalty missions. Like, they were tied into the ship. They're tied into the crew. Like, man, like, how cool would that have been? And like, okay, every time someone joins, they have a new piece of the puzzle that helps you find, like, oh, I'm from that home world. Let me find it. Like, yes, let's go ahead. And like, one takes you to like Gadik's home planet, and you have to meet his family, right, and deal with like that. Like again, the whole thing I missed, I didn't do. It sounds like it has some decent story. Wish they would have just like connected those pieces, because then I would have done those for sure if it would have been tied into the people that were part of my crew.
So I wrote down here that I had a Sabak anecdote to share. For the life of me, I cannot remember what I did about Sabak. But to go on a quick tangent here, John, you mentioned that you forgot like how the holodisc thing worked. I forgot how adrenaline worked in this game. I played 75% of the game until I got back to Tatooine and did the thing with Quint. I forgot about adrenaline altogether. What's the most egregious thing you forgot about through playing this game?
That was it. I literally forgot she had that ability until the last story mission. I'm like, oh yeah, there's that thing in the corner. What does that say? Oh right, we can do that. I literally never
rage
used
mode.
it the entire game from the time they gave it to us until in the last mission.
And it's really good. Like, it's super helpful. I'm glad I'm not the only one who forgot about it.
I could use this several times previously if I remembered it existed, but I don't know, for some reason I was blank to that corner of the screen where it had that prompt, I guess, but man.
I used it all the time because it was the fastest way to get rid of all those dang pikes that kept chasing me. So I use that religiously.
Smoke bombs and grenades, right?
Yeah.
Like, I felt like that was a really poor, like, the inventory system was weird, and, like, I never really got, like, oh, how can you aim and throw your grenades? Like, you could select it and then do, like, a quick throw, and I did that a couple of times. So barely used that, and then, like, a lot of Nyx's abilities I didn't use. Although, a fun one, I was really glad they gave me eventually the one where, like, I could have Nyx turn the grenades on the stormtroopers and have them self-detonate.
Yep.
I'm like, oh, I use that all the time as soon as I got it because that's just fun.
Yeah, it's like, I can finally use grenades because I don't have to hold down right on the D-pad and then select it and then use my throwing arc and then press another button to throw it. It's like, oh, good, they have utility.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah. That input for the grenades was so clunky. I don't know how that got through to the final build of the game, because it's just like I just never used them because I rarely used them. I should say that I did use them every now and again, but it was always like an afterthought because it just took too long to try to get into the menu to where it was at. The Nyx ability that I really liked was when you could trap the alarm panels.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Because it made it seem like that was all part of my master plan. So I have them trap it, and it's like, oh, one guy's running for the alarm. Crap, I can't shoot him in time. They go hit it, and boom, just blow up, and it's like, yes, it was all part of the plan. That was what I was trying to do. But the one thing I never did, and it's like there was like a few things that were unlocked in your like expert missions from that were the distraction mechanics with Nyx. I just never did it. I didn't really get when it would make sense to do that. Like if you're stealthing through an area, like that kind of breaks that stealth.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's one where you're supposed to like shoot them. Like there were some where you could like distract and then knock them out, and like did that, of course. But like once you shoot, like then you're shooting through the whole base, and like I'm totally with you. Like that was a very odd choice for those ally abilities.
Mm-hmm. So I used that one actually quite a bit, especially like Nyx would get like he had his own little upgrades you would get from food or whatever, right? And I did all those because all the little menu things were funny, the food things, food vendors. But I would, once I got the multi-distract, right, I would use a combination of like, let me go ahead and distract multiple people, and then one guy would get in front. So then I would use my stun gun to stun one guy, and that doesn't alert anybody. So then I could stun one guy, run up, and punch the other guy so you could take down two people. Otherwise, if they're not both distracted and you stun one, he alerts, the other one alerts. So that's the only time I started using that quite a bit, was if I wanted to move a bunch of people away so I could sneak by into something, or if there's two people there and I'm like, well, how am I going to kill them both? Oh, okay. Like, or stun them, quote unquote. Because like, no, you basically were killing them. I'm like...
So in those instances, when I had two dudes to take out, I would basically do the whole Ghost Recon thing, where it's like, all right, Nyx, you attack this one. At the same time, I'm gonna run up and try to stealth attack this one. And by the time I take that one down, Nyx is still fighting with that one. I can take them both down, and it won't alert anybody either, as long as we're not visible. Though. Definitely had that happen a few times where it's like, oh, I took those people out, turn around, oh, there's like 3 people staring at me. Whoops. Well, start shooting.
That was how I approached a large chunk of this game, too. It's like, if there's more than 2 dudes standing around, it's like, oh, well, I'm just not going to engage with those people, because, like, Nyx can hold one off, I can choke out one and then another, and, like, I don't know, I just avoided groups of more than 2. So this is kind of a random thing that I wanted to touch on. The game frequently posts signs pointing you in the right direction. Was this a helpful mechanic, or was it annoying and immersion breaking? Billy thought it was helpful. I kind of went back and forth on it.
I mean, it was helpful because there were definitely quite a few times where if you weren't looking at exactly the right spot, it wouldn't bring up the R3 prompt to throw your grapple hook at something. So there's a few times where they definitely, like, that signposting was useful and helpful. I wish there was maybe there was a couple instances, like the Rancor fight for one, and one other fight too that I'm blanking on right now. Oh yeah, the fight at the end when you're trying to escape the casino. It's like there's stuff I'm supposed to do. I'm not seeing where that is. You told me that it's somewhere. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Oh, well, I'm being chased down by this like 2-ton beast. I'm supposed to hold down the Nyx vision and try to find this thing that I'm supposed to interact with. Oh, I didn't click on the right thing. I got to run around for another minute before Nyx was able to take another command. It's just like, that was like a very clunky thing. And then, trying to find all the things that you needed to shoot down to open up your, the shields to get past this different, like, rings of things to get out of the casino is just kind of like, oh my gosh, like, show me give me some sort of an indicator on the screen that it's like, I gotta aim this way or I gotta look this way, to find the other pieces of it, because it just wasn't very clear what I needed to shoot, or I shot down 3 of them, I don't know where the other 4 are. Well, like, help me a little bit, just a little bit.
Yeah, so it sounds like Burns relied on them and hated them with a burning fiery passion when they weren't there.
In some cases, yes.
Yeah. Well, thinking about the full package, the story, the characters, the stealth mechanics, the exploration, what's a clear high point and what is one point that clearly fell short for each of us? Burns, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I mean, Kay and how well they captured like what the life of a smuggler would be like in the Star Wars universe were probably my favorite aspects of the game. It's like that's like the one thing that I loved Han Solo in the original trilogy, and it's just one of those things where like if I was going to be a Star Wars character, like that's the character I'd want to be. Countless times on AOL chat rooms where you go into some of the RP chats where you're doing Star Wars RP and it's like I'm a smuggler, blah blah blah. Like this was able to sort of live that out, and so I thought that was great. I think the biggest negative for me is that this game committed, well, one of the, if not two of the biggest sins that it can make, that really harmed sort of my experience with the game, turning what could have been a really cool mission into something that soured my experience as well as, when I looked at it, a bunch of people's experiences on the internet, because it did like a two-pronged thing where we're going to take away all the abilities that you've used throughout the entire game for this like final sequence of fights. So all the things that you used to be able to do to try to manipulate enemies or to try to take care of enemies, none of that matters anymore. All that health that you stored up, apparently that's tied to your gear, because when you're in Stormtrooper armor, you just have 4 chunks of things, and it's just like, and so then it's like, it does this thing because it's really cool. It's like, they're doing the thing. I'm dressing up in Stormtrooper armor like happens in the movies, and I was wondering if they were going to do that, and it was so cool until it wasn't. And then it's like, hey, you liked ND5, right? Well, what if he was Nemesis from Resident Evil 3? And, you just have to try to deal with this infuriating set of things that you need to try to do, and you're getting chased down by your buddy who doesn't want to kill you. But by the end of it, you get so frustrated trying to figure out how you have to manipulate him and how you have to hide from him in order to unlock the stuff that you need to unlock to get through the end of that mission. And do it once, you have to do it again. And it's just like, I just was bashing my head against the wall at first with that. It was so frustrating and so stupid. And really, it turns it into something where you start to hate ND5, even though I know it's not his fault. And it's just like, like first you take away like every ability that I have that maybe could have helped me in that situation, and then you just turn this game into something, a mission that like it wasn't up until that point, like ever. And it's just like, what's the point? Like, it makes no sense whatsoever to throw that in there. And there was countless people I remember like looking through on a Reddit thread where it's just like, yep, that's where the game ended for me. I wasn't getting past that. And supposedly if you're playing the game on higher difficulties, it's like really hard because his awareness is so much higher. And maybe they've patched it because eventually I got through it after bashing my head against it a little bit. But I just thought that was just it just gobsmacked me how frustrating and how just dumb of an idea that was to cause that mission to do some of the things that it did and make it so finicky and so tricky and so stupid.
Apparently there's one tool in the toolbox that you still have that is effective in that situation. John, Mike, did either of you know what it was?
Whistle.
Well, you kind of stole my prompt there, Burns.
Yeah.
Sorry, I started saying it before you asked.
They literally told you that, they felt like they better warn you about using the whistle. But you know what? I didn't use the whistle because you didn't actually have to. Once I figured out what you were supposed to do, which took me too long, it isn't that hard. You just have to realize what they're actually trying to get you to do here, which is just hide in the damn smoke till he walks around a corner, then go hit a switch and then go hide in the smoke again.
I didn't realize there was smoke.
Except for countless times when I was hiding in the smoke and he just still ran up to me and killed me anyway.
Well, you've got to pay attention to where he's looking, and if you know he's seeing you, just run halfway around the thing, hide in smoke, and then he'll walk by. It worked every time once I realized. You just had to figure out what his cone of vision was to figure out if you get away with staying still or had to be moving. And once you understood what that line was, then you always knew what to do. It just took a little while to do it.
Yeah,
But it took me a long time to figure that out.
I just sprinted around and hid from him, and then once he kind of moved past, I would sprint to the nearest panel and hope that I could do it in time. But I agree, super duper frustrating.
But again, like
it didn't flashbacks to Devil May Cry, where all of a sudden mysteriously you're flying a biplane at the end of the game for no reason whatsoever. Don't change the whole mechanic of the game in the final mission. I don't know why developers sometimes fall in this trap where they think they got to shake it up at the very end. No, that's the last time to shake it up. Yeah. Just let us finish the game the way we've kind of been doing it the last few hours. Is so much better.
There's a mechanic that they tell you about at the very beginning of the game when you do like your first like lockpick spike thing. Where like, and you can look left or right to see who's coming. Right?
I had no idea.
Never once had to use that ever. Right? There's never a scenario where I was spiking where I like was ever worried about that. Right? Because you're not worried about people coming around the corners because it just doesn't happen. It never really happened. I feel like the guy who made that thing was like in charge of this final battle. He's like, no, this is really easy, guys. All you have to do, like when you're doing the lockpick, you also have to watch for ND5. That's why that's there. And I'm like, you made it horrible. Because like there was a couple times where like, you know, like it did probably what they wanted to do. Where like I'm trying to do the lockpick and I'm like, oh no, he's probably right around the corner. And it's like, this is dumb. I did not like that either. And like the second one wasn't as bad because it was just, you know, pull the thing down and shoot it. It wasn't as bad. But like that first one where you had to like go and do the lockpick, I was like, doggone it. No.
Yeah. It's like, well, we really want you to go through a survival horror mission in this game at some point, and have nothing like that beforehand, or after. Not that there was much after, but it's just like, yeah, it just didn't make a lot of sense, and it probably dropped the game a point in my mind because it's just like you can't do stupid stuff like that and expect someone not to come away from your game thinking it's not as good as they thought it was before that. And it's just, first impressions are important, but the impression that you leave me with is even more important because that's what I'm going to remember moving forward. And there wasn't a whole lot much out after that was able to redeem things for me. So that's kind of what resides with me a little bit more. And so it's just like, I don't know, and it's just like you talk about trying to see his cone of vision, but it's like half the time I couldn't even see where the hell he was, trying to look around and maneuver the camera to see if I could find him. And it's just like, yeah, that mission just didn't work. And they really should have come up with something different to try to get through that to do that same plot point.
Right. And I think all this, like, for me, it all ties back to, this is why I was frustrated with the game is, again, it's another missed opportunity here, right? So we hit the end of the game, right? We find out who the real big bad is, and oops, guess what? K-Vest has been betrayed yet again, right? And instead of us having a scene where we get to, like, fight the person that's betrayed us, right? Join forces with our team to take that person down, what do we have to do? We fight our best robot friend. Right? And I was like, no, why am I fighting my best robot friend? Like, no, it should have been something where, like, fine, have us do something to save our best robot friend, and then let us fight the bad guy together, right? The bad guy gets in a TIE fighter or this or that, and we have to, like, fight him with AA guns on the ground or something. Who knows? Anything, right? Would have been such a better ending.
Well, technically, you are fighting him because he is being controlled by the restrictor bolt that was put on him by the big bad. Yeah. So, actually, no. But yeah, I get it. And it's just like, it was just completely frustrating. One other question on, like, the ending. So when you're flying around in the ship and you're trying to take down what you have to take down at the very end, was it the Ashiga clan that came to help for all of you, or was that just what popped up for me for some reason?
I think it's whoever has the highest ranking with you at that time.
That's what I think too.
I had the Huts.
Okay.
Yeah. I had the pikes.
Oh, yep, there you go then.
Yep.
Okay.
So it's just whoever.
Because I was maxed out on 2 of the 4, so it must have just picked the Ashiga clan for me. Because I was maxed out on the Ashiga clan and the Crimson Dawn, I'm pretty sure. Although I think I might have been maxed out on the Hutts, but then because I had to do the mission where I had to break things out, I think that actually brought me down out of maxed out on them. So maybe that was the only one that I had was the Ashiga clan because I didn't cross them again. So that makes sense. That's the only thing I was wondering that was probably affected by the decisions that you made or whoever you were best friends with.
So, I've talked about my low points all over the place, right? Story, missed beats, this and that. I do think it's extremely hilarious, the rebels are on Akiva, which I found so funny. Like that whole mission where you're doing this stuff, then all of a sudden the rebels were just there. I don't know if it was a bug when I played. Poof, they showed up. But I do have to say that they nailed the look and feel of Star Wars in this game. Right? And it's what kept me coming back. If you are a Star Wars fan, it's a great experience. It's still fun despite all the flaws here. I just came back from Disney World. I was in Star Wars, right? And literally I was walking through some of these places in Galaxy's Edge and I'm like, oh, this feels like Star Wars Outlaw. I'm going to slice this, right? I needed my little hairpin thing to break the lock and get me into Smuggler's Run, right? It looked so they really did nail that look and that feel. Again, makes it hurt a little more where they just didn't stick the landing on the other things, but it does make this game still a lot of fun. Just skip the syndicate stuff and streamline the main missions.
Yeah, word. Mike, a high and a low for you?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of highs. Someone called it out in an earlier comment, but the point where Vader shows up, you find out that Slero is really working for the Empire and he's director, blah, blah, blah. And it's not really a huge surprise. It was pretty obvious that was going to be the case. And here's this guy. He's absolutely your nemesis. He has all the power. Our little group is nothing compared to him. And Vader shows up, and all of a sudden he's basically a punk. And he's lucky to survive the meeting with Vader because Vader's a whole different animal. And it puts everything in perspective just how far down the chain we kind of are. We're a bunch of lowlifes, really. And it's kind of cool when you get put in perspective that way that when you talk about, Vader, Slero was nothing. And yet compared to Slero, we're just weak and powerless too. So I really like the fact that, you end up playing people that we're not important. We're not powerful. We're not influential. We're just, people scraping by on the underside of society in the Star Wars universe. And I like that they did it that way. It's been said many times, this is a good game. It could have been a great game. It just, if they could have been more focused, if they'd done fewer things but done them better and more in depth, it would have been a much better game. They got spread too thin, had too many different things they tried to implement all together to make it all work as well as it could have.
So I have no idea if it's been announced or not, or if it's even in the works, but if it was announced that Massive was working on Outlaws 2, what would your level of excitement be then, Mike?
Well, fairly high. I mean, I doubt they would get the opportunity to do it too, but if they did, I would really hope they learned a lot of lessons. And then with the groundwork laid, they could, concentrate more on the details. They could, fill in the gaps a whole lot better when they're not starting from scratch. So I'd be fairly, maybe not optimistic, but I'd be very hopeful of a really good game.
Yeah, I'd be pretty stoked for it, but my perspective is that I love this game. I loved Outlaws, and I loved the back half of the game. Once I let go of, wanting to be good at stealth mechanics, I'm not going to be in any game ever. And so, once I just embraced the story and just rolled with it, I had a ball with this game. I thought the story and Kay Vess as the protagonist were the clear high points. Clunky controls were a definite low. It bugged me throughout the entire game. I thought the Rancor fight was also a major low. I hated having to try to shoot the thing above its head, and that was for me the most frustrating aspect of this entire game. And we didn't touch on it, but the arrest system was total bullcrap. Sometimes, you're warring against the Imperials and a GTA style wanted gauge keeps building up and you're more and more wanted. They'll call in death troopers, whatever. And eventually, if they corner you, you'll just be arrested. It's oh, well, I guess I won't fight anymore. Like, at one point, I was trying to run to a corrupt officer to get the trophy for paying off a wanted level of a certain level, and, like, I passed by 2 stormtroopers. I'm at a full tilt sprinting across Mos Eisley. They're not even aware that I'm there, and, like, as soon as I cross their field of vision, it just flashes arrested. It cost me 1,200 credits. I'm like, that is some serious change. Like, I was so frustrated with that, and, like, I don't understand how the arrest system works, and I just think that the whole arrest system is total bullcrap.
Well, be glad you played it when you did, because it was a lot worse when the game first launched, supposedly. A lot more times you would end up getting arrested, or it's not the same thing, but in cartels you could also get kicked out of, like, the areas by them, too.
Oh, yeah, I had that happen a bunch of times.
Yeah, and so it's like, that used to happen after they've toned that down quite a bit after launch, because that got a lot of negative feedback, of course.
Yeah, thank goodness. Just don't play games at launch. That's the takeaway there, right? So, like, one last thing to poke at. There's a lot of fan service in this game, particularly on Tatooine. We talked about a lot of it. But what did you guys think of the journey into the Sarlacc? Like, you have the one quest where you have to go get a Sarlacc tooth, so you're climbing through a dead Sarlacc. Was that a fun point in this game for you guys, or was it more frustrating?
I like that mission. I like that mission a lot. I wish it had been a little later in the Star Wars timeline where we could have found Boba Fett down there and laughed at him when you peed on him. Yeah.
That would have been great.
And I love the end of that mission when you give him the tooth and they're all excited and they're cheering. And he just takes and tosses into a box that's full of them. They have hundreds of them already.
I feel like the mission itself was okay, right? But, like, how they delivered it, working with the Jawas was great, and everything that's happening over the radio with ND5 is fantastic.
Yep.
So that was a great way of storytelling, and you're experiencing, like, these Jawas are tearing the ship apart and doing all this stuff. Hurry, get it there, right? And it, like, was just fun. So I would have liked to see a live Sarlacc in the game, though. I think it was a missed opportunity, right? That there is a live Sarlacc still alive, the one that eats Boba Fett, right? But we didn't get to see it. So that would have been, like, some of those things would have been fun to find.
You had the sandworm, though.
I didn't get to see the sandworm. I didn't see it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't see the sandworm either.
You didn't drive around enough. You didn't drive around enough on that. There's a couple of times where that thing was just hot in my pursuit for a long time, and it was like, am I going to get eaten by this stupid thing? Yeah, because, if you're in that same area where the Sarlacc pit was, and where one of the Tatooine vaults is, if you're driving around on that sand, eventually the sandworm's going to get triggered and it's going to come out and it'll start chasing you. And so you kind of got to, like, zig at the right time. Otherwise it'll, like, ram into you, eat you. I don't know. I luckily evaded it most of the time, but yeah. So yeah, that is something that happens in that area.
Sounds like an opportunity for a great set-piece moment where you fire, like, this giant cannon at it and, like, you have to confront it with all your other buddies and they're, like, armored mechs too. Like, that would be so rad. And on that random tangent, that wraps up our discussion on Star Wars Outlaws by Massive Entertainment. Next month, we're swapping jobs and going back to our foundational years as we play Final Fantasy Tactics: The Ivalice Chronicles. It's a remake of my all-time favorite game. Can it possibly live up to my nostalgic memory of the experience? Find out next month. On the main show, we just posted our Star Wars Imperial Assault episode, well, a couple weeks ago. This is getting out a little later in the month than we would normally hope for. But next month, we have even more Star Wars content as Joey, Phoenix, and I break down the board game Star Wars Battle of Hoth. I hope you'll jump in and play the next Game Pass or Game Club game with us. And please support Outside is Overrated on Patreon at patreon.com/OiO. Until next month, stay inside, kids.